We are here with Gale and Hurd, one of the producers and the people in charge of The Walking Dead, one of the most popular shows in modern TVdom. What do you find? I'm curious, since you've done probably dozens of interviews so far. What are people most curious about?
I guess people want to continue to try to get spoilers about season 5. They want us to squeal about who might be meeting their demise this season, and also, you know, lots of enthusiasm for season 4, which has been great. Yeah.
So you found that most people were okay with the way that you structured the story, where you ended up following a bunch of different people in different places?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think initially last season, people were a little thrown off by it, but by the end of the season, when they were able to reflect on it, a lot of people mentioned that they were able to go deeper into particular characters that you hadn't known much about, like Beth, when we explored Beth and Daryl on their journey.
Right.
And they also liked the fact that we changed it up a bit and ended season 4 on a cliffhanger, which we've never done before.
What motivated that decision?
We wanted to do something different. In the past, we've also tended to pick up the new season months later. And that just seemed like, well, we keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
And this seemed like a new way to go, and we wanted to see if it worked. And people liked the anticipation and wondering how they were going to get out of that predicament.
Right. Well, the nice thing with the cliffhanger is that given the amount of noise there is in terms of whether it's TV being produced, video online, news, if you leave someone with a very sharp or kind of memorable conclusion, it makes it easier for them to remember where they're going when you pick it up again. At what point in the trajectory of the show did you start to realize kind of the cultural impact, or at least the popularity that it was going to have?
I think we were all surprised when it debuted the first season to, you know, very significant numbers. And then we expected that, you know, we would maintain that level, and then instead we've, you know, gone from maybe 4.5 million or so to 15 million, and there was no way we ever could have predicted that that would happen.
Right.
So it seems that our fans are such avid fans that they talk their friends and families into watching, and because you can now stream episodes, you know, legally stream them on iTunes or Netflix, etc. People can catch up between seasons. That was always something that limited serialized shows in the past, was that if you fell behind, there was no way to catch up.
Right. Do you having come from producing a lot of different movies, now working in TV, what do you find yourself watching more? Are you following a lot of the different serialized dramas? Are you still partial to movies?
You know, it's harder for me to see a movie, and I guess I'm not alone. You know, I will make an appointment to go see a particular movie, but you know, you have to think about, okay, it's this amount of time commitment, I'm going to have to find parking, you know, and then I spend half the year in Georgia where we make The Walking Dead. So it's actually like a 30-minute drive from where I'm staying to a movie theater. So, you know, that begins to be a big chunk of my day. So if I'm doing a TV, if I'm binge watching TV, you know, in three hours I can watch, you know, maybe 4 episodes of a show and get that much more into the characters.
Right. What are some of the shows that you're watching now besides your own that you're either finding inspiration in or particularly enjoying?
You know, I like The Americans. I like Bates Motel. I like Hannibal. I like House of Cards.
I've heard. I love House of Cards. I've heard very good things about Hannibal, although I haven't seen it. Just that because of it's on late at night on Friday, I guess, and so there's a little more flexibility with how much they can show for being a
NBC
network
went
show.
for it.
Yeah.
So I applaud them for being bold in their choice and continuing to back the show, even though it doesn't have huge viewership. And I do think it's the kind of show that will grow viewers.
Right. If you know, one of the reasons you talk about watching more television seems to be the convenience of being able to watch it at home. I mean, do you think that movie studios have to reconsider some of the ways that they're releasing movies? You know, every once in a while you have movie. This summer there was Snowpiercer. A couple of years ago there was Margin Call, one of those movies that does really well on VOD. They release it on VOD the same day as in theaters, and people start to kind of murmur about, well, maybe we should do this with more bigger movies.
You know, it's difficult because obviously the theaters don't like that. And I can understand that. I can understand that they've got a huge investment in maintaining their premises, and you know, and video on demand doesn't have that.
Right.
So I can understand why theater owners don't want the business to go in that direction. I do think, though, that the movie companies should build out the universe a little bit more. When The Walking Dead isn't on the air, we have tons of behind-the-scene footage. We have fan contests. We have marathons where people can watch the show. We have webisodes. You know, so in the off-season, it's not like people aren't learning new things or exploring new worlds of the show. And I think that the film business is going to need to embrace that approach.
Right. So how do you guys approach that ancillary content? Do you shoot some of that while you're shooting a given season? Do you decide after the season wraps kind of what you want to try and do to sustain viewers' engagement in between?
It's all shot while we're filming, although this summer we had some specials. We had a special about, you know, Walker University, you know, how people become walkers. We had footage where there were new interviews of behind-the-scenes crew members who hadn't been featured before, which they really got a kick out of. You know, what do our crew do behind the scenes?
Right.
And we also had a special Talking Dead episode where Chris Hardwick came to set while we were shooting, because generally we don't post a lot of behind-the-scenes footage before the episodes air, the
Right.
new episodes.
Yeah, he's everywhere down here. I know I have to let you go, but I have to ask you about Terminator before I do. What are your thoughts on the latest reboot? Or do they consult with you at all? Do you just let them do their thing? Do you think it's no?
They have the rights now, and you know, they haven't consulted with Jim or with me. So, you know, Godspeed, and I will know as little as everyone else about the new Terminator.